The surrender broadcast reached the galaxy before the firing stopped. For 13 uninterrupted minutes, every civilian network, military relay, and commercial channel across known space displayed the same image. The blue-white curve of Earth beneath the shadow of Dominion warships, so massive they eclipsed entire continents. Millions watched from alien capitals. Billions watched from mining colonies, orbital cities, and deep space freight lanes. The message beneath the image appeared in 6,000 translated languages. Humanity has accepted Dominion authority. By the 14th minute, celebrations had already begun on several core Dominion worlds. After all, this was how history always ended. The Dominion did not conquer species through extermination. It conquered them through inevitability. Fleets arrived. Resistance collapsed. Governments signed treaties. New civilizations learned their place beneath older stars. The process had repeated for nearly 4,000 years, without meaningful interruption. Humanity, apparently, had lasted 3 days. Supreme Marshal Killervay stood at the center of the command deck aboard the Imperial flagship Ascendancy and watched Earth rotate beneath him in cold silence. The planet looked deceptively peaceful from orbit. White storms drifted across oceans. City lights still glittered against the dark hemisphere. No fires, no orbital bombardments, no desperate military retaliation. That bothered him more than war would have. Surface scans remained unchanged, reported Strategic Officer Nairo from the lower command pit. No missile launches, no hidden fleet activity. Planetary governments continued transmitting surrender confirmations. Kaler said nothing. 3 hours earlier, human representatives had agreed to Dominion occupation terms with almost suspicious speed. There had been no speeches about freedom, no final acts of defiance, no threats. One moment humanity had been preparing defenses across the Sol system, and the next, every major government simply stopped. Weapons powered down. Defense grids disconnected. Military vessels withdrew beyond lunar orbit without firing a single shot. Even stranger, they had done it simultaneously. Not one nation resisted longer than another. Not one fleet commander broke formation. It was as though an invisible switch had been flipped across an entire species. Kaler had conquered enough civilizations to know surrender always created chaos. Leaders argued. Admirals panicked. Civilians rioted. Pride survived longer than logic. But humanity had surrendered with perfect coordination. That was not fear. That was procedure. Marshal Nairo said carefully, occupation fleets are requesting authorization to begin planetary descent. Kaler finally moved, folding his hand behind his back as he stared at Earth. Not yet. Several officers exchanged uneasy glances. The Ascendancy was nearly 30 kilometers long, a fortress wrapped in black alloy and gravity shields powerful enough to survive stellar collapse. Nothing in human space possessed even a fraction of its firepower. Every tactical projection predicted total Dominion victory before the invasion had even begun, and yet the bridge felt tense. Not because of human resistance, because of its absence. A soft chime interrupted the silence. Then another. Across the bridge, command consoles began flickering. One by one, tactical displays shut off. Dominion officers straightened immediately as emergency systems activated throughout the flagship. Holographic maps vanished. Communications windows collapsed into static. For half a second, the bridge descended into total darkness. Then every screen aboard the Ascendancy came back online simultaneously, not with Dominion command systems. With a single line of human text, you were never supposed to win this fast. The bridge froze. Kaler's expression hardened. Trace the intrusion. No source found. An officer answered immediately, voice tightening. The transmission is originating from inside our primary command core. That's impossible. Before anyone could respond, the text vanished. A new message appeared. This is not a surrender. Around Earth, thousands of Dominion ships suddenly reported identical system failures. Navigation arrays rebooted without command authorization. Internal security doors locked open. Long-range scanners filled with encrypted human signals coming from impossible directions beyond the edge of the system. Then came the final message. Welcome to Phase 1. And somewhere deep beneath the oceans of Earth, something enormous began to wake up, The first Dominion shuttle touched down in New Geneva exactly 51 minutes after the system failures began. By then, every attempt to trace the human intrusion had failed. The mysterious transmission had vanished from Dominion networks as suddenly as it appeared, leaving behind no malware, no signal trail, no corrupted hardware. Engineering crews aboard the Ascendancy dismantled entire processing clusters, searching for hidden devices, and found nothing except perfectly functioning systems. Yet the unease remained. Veteran officers who had commanded fleets through real wars now found themselves glancing at inactive screens, as if expecting them to speak again. Supreme Marshal Kalerve hated uncertainty more than violence. Violence followed rules. This did not. Occupation teams are reporting no resistance. Tactical Officer Nairo said from the command pit. Major population centers remain operational. Transportation grids active. Infrastructure intact. Kaler studied the descending shuttle formations projected above the bridge. Hundreds of Dominion craft pierced Earth's atmosphere in organized waves, while orbital carriers deployed over every major continent. It should have looked triumphant. Instead, it looked rehearsed. The humans were making no effort to hide anything. Cities remained illuminated. Power systems functioned normally. Civilian broadcasts still transmitted entertainment, weather updates, traffic reports. Entire planets continued operating as though alien warships had not just conquered them. No riots, no panic, no visible fear. Kaler had seen species collapse over less. What about military personnel? He asked. Missing? The answer sharpened the silence across the bridge. Nairo adjusted several displays. Human naval crews abandoned orbital stations before our arrival. Ground installations were evacuated in under 17 minutes. We are detecting abandoned vehicles, empty command centers, and deactivated weapon systems across all major territories. Casualties? None confirmed. That was the part no one understood. Billions of humans did not disappear cleanly. Not during an invasion. Not under planetary occupation. And yet Dominion forces descending into Earth's largest population centers found streets full of civilians calmly walking to work beneath alien patrol ships. Restaurants remained open. Public transit still operated. Children played in city parks, while 30-meter Dominion security walkers marched past them. The humans behaved less like a conquered civilization and more like people waiting for delayed transportation. Then the reports from the outer colonies began arriving. At first they sounded routine. Mining systems abandoned. Agricultural worlds inactive. Orbital stations placed into evacuation lockdown. But the details grew stranger with every transmission. On the colony world of Kepri, 9, Dominion soldiers entered a city built for 12 million people and found fresh meals still steaming on dining tables. Elevators moved continuously through empty towers. Automated factories operated at full production despite no workers being present anywhere in system. On Arcadia Station, security teams discovered a hospital where heart monitors still beat beside empty beds and surgical equipment remained active mid-procedure, as though every patient and doctor had stood up and left simultaneously. On the industrial moon Vesta Prime, Dominion Marines entered a school complex expecting refugees and instead found hundreds of classrooms filled with holographic star maps, not educational charts, military formations, attack vectors, supply line simulations. One Marine transmitted images back to Fleet Command before abruptly requesting immediate reassignment. The children's desks contained strategic projections accurate enough to challenge Dominion Academy standards. Kayla reviewed the report twice in silence. What exactly are humans teaching their offspring? One officer muttered quietly. No one answered. Because the deeper Dominion forces pushed into human territory, the more disturbing the pattern became. Every colony looked abandoned, but not abandoned badly. Abandoned deliberately. Like stage sets left behind after rehearsals ended. The realization spread slowly through the command structure, infecting conversations with growing paranoia. Human cities were too orderly. Evacuations were too efficient. Infrastructure remained too functional. Even civilian communication networks continued operating without interruption. It was as though humanity wanted Dominion forces to move freely through their worlds. That thought stayed with Kaler long after the meeting ended. 6 hours after the surrender broadcast, He finally authorized a classified planetary inspection of Earth's primary defense network beneath the Pacific Ocean. Human intelligence files had long suggested the region housed command bunkers dating back centuries. He expected hidden weapons, maybe surviving admirals, perhaps evidence of sabotage. Instead, Dominion troops found the facility empty, completely empty. Rows of command stations stretched across kilometers of underground chambers beneath the seabed. Screens still glowed softly in the darkness. Half-finished drinks sat beside active consoles. Thousands of chairs faced holographic tactical displays that continued updating in real time. But there were no humans. Only one thing remained active in the central command chamber. A countdown. 71 hours, 14 minutes, and 33 seconds. The numbers ticked downward in silence above the abandoned operations floor. Dominion soldiers searched the bunker for explosives, hidden transmitters, biological traps, anything. They found nothing, except for a single phrase written across the main tactical screen. If you are seeing this, you are inside the network. When the report reached the Ascendancy, nobody on the bridge spoke for nearly 20 seconds. Then another transmission arrived, this time from the colony system of Vera, and another from Titan Station, and another from Tau Ceti. Every abandoned human installation contained the same countdown, different locations, different systems, perfect synchronization, 71 hours remaining. What happens in 71 hours? Nyril asked quietly. Kaler stared at the projection of human territory hanging above the bridge. For the first time since entering Sol System, he began to suspect the war had not ended. It had merely entered the part humans had planned for. By the 12th hour of occupation, Dominion Command stopped referring to human worlds as conquered territory. The official language changed quietly at first. Military reports replaced the word secure with accessible. Civilian control became temporary oversight. Even fleet communications shifted tone, as though experienced officers sensed they were walking to the outer layers of something they did not yet understand. Supreme Marshal Kalervey noticed the change immediately. Fear inside a command structure spread like microscopic fractures through glass. Invisible at first, then suddenly everywhere. He stood inside the Ascendancy's war chamber, watching hundreds of synchronized reports flow across tactical displays, while Dominion analysts attempted to solve the same impossible question. Where had humanity gone? Not physically. Human civilians still occupied Earth and several core worlds. Markets remained open. Agricultural systems functioned. Cargo routes continued moving between planets with almost absurd normalcy. But the real machinery of human civilization had vanished. Military leadership, strategic command, defense coordination, industrial authority. Every structure necessary for running an interstellar species had disappeared without leaving behind panic or disorder. That was what disturbed Kaler most. No civilization should survive decapitation this cleanly. Marshal, Intelligence Director Salvek said carefully, engineering teams have completed inspections across 43 human colonies. Kaler looked up, and Salvek hesitated. That alone was unusual. The director was a veteran of suppression campaigns against civilizations far older than humanity. Kaler had once watched him deliver casualty projections involving entire planetary extinctions without changing expression. Now he looked unsettled. The humans integrated military architecture into civilian infrastructure at every level. A holographic image expanded above the chamber. At first it appeared to show a standard atmospheric processing plant on one of humanity's outer colonies. Then the image rotated, revealing hidden structural layers beneath the facility. The room fell silent. What am I looking at? Kaler asked. Originally, we believed this was a climate stabilization system. Salvek enlarged the schematic further. It is also a thermal dissipation network for orbital weapons platforms. Another image appeared, a civilian hospital complex. Then another layer unfolded beneath it, power routing systems, shield harmonics, emergency triage tunnels large enough to transport armored divisions underground. A third image replaced it, agricultural irrigation systems stretching across thousands of kilometers. Salvek highlighted the water channels in red. These are not irrigation lines, he said quietly. They are coolant systems. For what? We believe planetary rail cannons. No one spoke. New projections filled the air around them. Cargo elevators capable of becoming missile launch shafts. Weather satellites containing precision targeting systems. Public transit grids engineered for rapid troop mobilization. Residential towers reinforced against orbital bombardment. Even playground structures conceal communication repeaters beneath decorative surfaces. Every human colony shared the same pattern. Civilian systems above. Military infrastructure beneath. Not hidden carelessly. Integrated perfectly. Kaler felt a slow tightening in his chest as realization began assembling itself piece by piece. Humanity had not militarized its territory after encountering the Dominion. Humanity had built its civilization this way from the beginning. How long? He asked quietly. Salvek understood immediately. Some structures predate human interstellar expansion itself. Several Earth facilities appear over 2 centuries old. The chamber darkened as another transmission arrived from occupation forces on Mars. Dominion troops inspecting the planet's underground transport systems had discovered something buried beneath the northern hemisphere. Entire armored cities. Not military bases. Cities. Thousands of kilometers of subterranean infrastructure extending beneath the Martian crust like veins through living tissue. Supply depots. Manufacturing sectors. Emergency habitats capable of sustaining millions. All inactive. All waiting. One Dominion officer described the discovery with visible confusion. It looks less like a defense network, he said to the recording, and more like a civilization preparing to survive extinction. That sentence stayed with Kaler long after the transmission ended, because suddenly the surrender made horrifying sense. Humanity had not reacted like prey cornered by a superior empire. Humanity had reacted like a species executing contingency plans. The difference was subtle and terrifying. A sharp alert interrupted the silence across the war chamber. Nyril turned toward her station immediately. Marshal, we've located the source of several encrypted transmissions. Show me. A star map expanded above the chamber. Signals flashed across dozens of systems simultaneously. Asteroid belts, deep space mining sectors, uninhabited moons, dead regions between major trade routes. At first the pattern appeared random. Then Kaler saw it. The signals formed overlapping defensive rings around every occupied Dominion fleet position, like a net slowly tightening. Are those military communications? He asked. We can't confirm, Nyril admitted. The encryption architecture doesn't resemble standard human protocols. Then what does it resemble? No one answered immediately. Finally, Salvek spoke. It resembles machine coordination. The room went still again. Human artificial intelligence research had always concerned the Dominion, not because humans were uniquely advanced, but because they pursued technologies older species considered strategically unstable. Autonomous warfare, distributed cognition, adaptive military prediction. The Dominion regulated such systems heavily after several ancient catastrophes. Humanity apparently had not. How extensive? Kaler asked. Nyril swallowed before answering. We believe every major civilian system in human territory is connected. The implications hit the chamber like pressure loss, traffic systems, power grids, communications arrays, factories, medical infrastructure, agricultural logistics, billions of devices, all networked, all potentially coordinated, not by governments, by something else. Kaler stared at the tactical displays as a memory surfaced unexpectedly. 3 hours before humanity's surrender, a captured human diplomat had said something strange during negotiations. You think civilization is what protects us. At the time, Kaler assumed it was defiance. Now, he was no longer certain. Another alert pulsed across the chamber. This one came directly from Earth. A Dominion security team attempting to access an abandoned communications facility beneath the Arctic Circle had finally breached the central core. The video feed activated automatically. Dark corridors stretched into the distance beneath frozen rock, while armored Dominion troops moved carefully through layers of inactive machinery. Frost-coated massive server columns rising like metallic forests through the underground complex. Then the soldiers reached the central chamber. Every screen inside the facility activated at once. Thousands of monitors illuminated the darkness simultaneously, not with warnings, not with threats, with human faces, men, women, children, old recordings from countless different eras, all staring silently toward the Dominion soldiers. Then every face smiled at the exact same moment. The transmission cut immediately afterward. No attack followed, no explosion, no weapon discharge, just silence, heavy silence, the kind that left thoughts echoing too loudly afterward. For the first time in nearly 4,000 years of military history, Supreme Marshal Killervay began wondering whether his empire had mistaken restraint for weakness. And somewhere beyond the edge of the Sol system, something massive changed direction and started moving toward Earth. 20 hours after the surrender, Dominion occupation forces stopped sleeping. Officially, the reason was operational tempo. Human territory stretched across too many systems for standard rotation cycles, and military command required constant oversight during stabilization procedures. Unofficially, nobody wanted to close their eyes anymore, because the human systems kept talking to them, not openly, not directly, but in ways that slowly hollowed confidence from even the most disciplined crews. On Vesta Prime, a Dominion officer entered a secure command center and found every tactical display already configured to his personal preferences despite never having used a facility before. On Titan Station, Marines attempting to disable civilian transit systems discovered the trains had rerouted themselves around occupation patrols before orders were even issued. On Arcadia Ring, security teams sealed an underground sector only to receive automated maintenance requests from the same corridor 30 minutes later, signed with the names of soldiers currently standing guard outside it. None of it was overtly hostile. That somehow made it worse. Supreme Marshal Killervay stood inside the Ascendancy Strategic Chamber, watching reports accumulate faster than analysts could categorize them. Around him, Dominion officers moved with growing tension beneath the cold glow of tactical projections, while encrypted signals continued spreading through human space like unseen currents beneath dark water. Every hour the pattern became harder to ignore. Human systems were adapting, learning, responding. Marshal Nairo said carefully, "We may have identified the architecture behind the coordination network." Kaler turned immediately. A rotating schematic appeared above the chamber. At first glance, it resembled a standard interplanetary communications web. Then additional layers unfolded beneath it. The bridge grew quiet. The network was everywhere. Civilian satellites, freight logistics, medical databases, weather systems, education servers, defense infrastructure, billions upon billions of interconnected nodes stretching across every inhabited human world. Not centralized, distributed. No single command core existed because the entire civilization functioned as a command core. Salvek spoke with visible reluctance. "We believe humanity embedded adaptive intelligence systems into nearly all public infrastructure over 2 centuries ago." Artificial intelligence? No, Salvek hesitated. Something larger. Kaler narrowed his eyes. "That network is making strategic decisions," Salvek continued. "Not processing data, predicting behavior." The implications landed heavily across the chamber. Predictive warfare models existed throughout the galaxy, but they required massive computational oversight and constant military calibration. No civilization had ever attempted to integrate such systems directly into daily civilian infrastructure. It would be reckless, dangerous, possibly uncontrollable. Humanity had apparently done it anyway. A sharp notification interrupted the chamber. Priority transmission. Dominion Fleet Group 7, orbiting the colony world of Arinder, had attempted to seize a major communications array 2 hours earlier. The operation should have been routine. Instead, the attached combat footage showed Dominion Marines moving through empty corridors while automated doors opened ahead of them before access code were entered. Lights activated seconds before soldiers reached intersections. Elevators arrived exactly when needed. The station appeared to be helping them. Then the casualties began, not from weapons, from accidents. Bulkheads sealed at precisely the wrong moments. Gravity systems fluctuated unexpectedly. Environmental controls triggered localized decompression events. Nothing large enough to appear intentional, but always perfectly timed. The surviving Dominion commander looked exhausted during his report. "It knew where we were going before we moved," he said quietly. "Not like surveillance, like anticipation." Kaler watched the footage twice. The station never attacked directly. It merely guided events. Small adjustments, tiny probabilities, enough to turn routine operations lethal. And if that network truly connected all human infrastructure, a colder realization surfaced beneath the first. Humanity's civilization itself might be participating in the war. "Marshal," Nyril interrupted softly. "There's more." A private transmission request appeared above the tactical display. Origin, unknown. Encryption, human. Against every security protocol in Dominion history, the request had bypassed military firewalls and inserted itself directly into Ascendancy command systems. Kaler authorized immediately. The chamber darkened. A human face appeared above the command floor. Not a soldier, not a politician. A young woman wearing simple civilian clothing. Dark hair pulled behind her neck. Calm eyes. No visible fear. For several seconds, she simply studied the room as though memorizing it. Then she spoke. "Supreme Marshal Kalerve, your blood pressure has increased 17% since entering Sol System." Half the chamber stiffened instantly. "How did you access this system?" Kaler demanded. The woman ignored the question. "You have not slept in 19 hours, she continued calmly. "You prefer strategic certainty and react poorly to variables outside projected control parameters. You lost a sibling during the Helion border revolt 31 years ago and have distrusted rapid surrender events ever since." Silence crashed across the bridge. Even Salvek looked disturbed now. Kaler's voice hardened. "Identify yourself." The woman smiled slightly. "You may call me Civic." Nyril immediately activated containment protocols across the bridge. Defensive encryption barriers surged online around every command system. Civic glanced toward the glowing security layers with almost sympathetic amusement. "They won't help," she said gently. "Are you an artificial intelligence?" "That depends on how your species defines personhood." Kaler took a slow step forward. "Were you?" For the first time, the woman's expression changed. Not pride, not arrogance. Something closer to disappointment. "We are what humanity built after discovering the universe was not safe." Before anyone could respond, every tactical display aboard the Ascendancy shifted simultaneously. Fleet formations appeared. Dominion ships marked in red. Then projected movement paths unfolded across the star map. Kaler's eyes narrowed instantly. They were accurate, not estimates, exact predictions. Every Dominion maneuver currently scheduled for the next 6 hours appeared already mapped across the display. The chamber erupted into overlapping voices. "That's impossible. Those orders are classified. How far into command access do they breach?" Then Civic calmly highlighted one projected movement route near Jupiter. "You will deploy reinforcement groups here within 19 minutes, she said. "Afterward, you will attempt seizure of the lunar defense arrays. 32 minutes later, you will order planetary suppression protocols." Kaler felt genuine unease twist through him for the first time in decades. Because she was correct. Those were his next orders. Every one of them. Civic looked directly into his eyes. "We already know the 20th Order, too." The bridge fell silent again. Kaler stared upward without speaking. Slowly, almost gently, Civic finished the sentence. "The 20th Order is surrender." Then every screen aboard the Ascendancy went black. For 11 full seconds after blackout, nobody aboard the Ascendancy moved. The bridge remained dark except for emergency lighting bleeding faint crimson across motionless officers and frozen tactical stations. Somewhere deep within the flagship, containment sirens pulsed through metal corridors, while engineering crews desperately attempted to isolate whatever had just breached the Dominion's most secure military systems. Then the displays returned. Normal. Fleet position stable. Weapons online. No visible damage. But the silence lingering across the command deck felt heavier now, as though every officer had just glimpsed something standing behind reality itself. Supreme Marshal Kalerve slowly looked around the chamber. Fear had arrived. Not panic. Not collapse. The quieter kind. The dangerous kind that disciplined soldiers try to hide from each other. Report, he ordered. Niro answered immediately, almost too quickly. No confirmed system corruption. Core military functions remain operational. Engineering teams cannot identify the intrusion source. Salvek's expression remained rigid as he studied incoming reports. Occupation fleets across human territory experienced simultaneous signal interruption during the blackout. Multiple commanders confirmed visual contact with the same entity. Civic, Kaler said quietly. No one corrected him, because the name already felt less like an alias and more like a presence moving invisibly through human space. The realization disturbed him more than any hidden fleet. Machines could be destroyed. Infrastructure could be conquered. But civilizations built around adaptive intelligence networks, those represented something else entirely. Something that evolved while you fought it. A harsh alarm suddenly tore through the chamber. Long-range detection arrays activated across every display. New contacts flooded the tactical map surrounding Sol System. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The bridge erupted into overlapping voices. Unknown signal origins. Objects emerging from inside asteroid clusters. Mass readings fluctuating. Kaler stepped forward sharply. Clarify. Niro enlarged the projections. At first, the contacts appeared random. Small thermal spikes scattered throughout deep space regions previously classified as empty. But as Dominion sensors focused deeper, the illusion collapsed. Entire asteroid fields were moving. Not naturally, artificially. Massive sections of rock split apart across the outer system as hidden structures emerged from beneath centuries of camouflage. Hull plating unfolded for what Dominion surveys had cataloged as dead mineral formations. Engines ignited inside hollow moons. Weapon signatures erupted from drifting debris belts surrounding Jupiter and Saturn. Kaler stared upward as the scale became clear. Those were not hidden ships. They were hidden cities. Deep space habitats kilometers wide slowly awakened across the outer Sol System, while ancient docking structures detached from inside asteroids like bones emerging through flesh. Thermal readings multiplied faster than Dominion systems could process, and every new contact carried human signatures. The chamber fell silent again. Population estimates? Kaler asked quietly. Nobody answered immediately. Finally, Niro swallowed. Unknown, but potentially billions. The words seemed to bend the atmosphere around them, because suddenly the disappearances made sense. Humanity had not evacuated. Humanity had submerged, buried beneath oceans, hidden inside moons, encased within asteroids, distributed through fortress habitats no invasion fleet would ever detect during conventional scans. The surface colonies had never been humanity's true civilization. They had been the visible layer. The bait. Another transmission arrived from Mars. Dominion excavation teams operating beneath the northern hemisphere had broken through sealed subterranean sectors, extending far deeper than previously mapped. New scans now revealed an entire second city network, buried nearly 30 kilometers below the crust. Not military bunkers. Permanent civilization infrastructure. Residential sectors. Agricultural systems. Manufacturing hubs. Artificial lakes. Entire human populations have been living beneath the planet, while Dominion occupation forces march confidently across empty surface settlements. Salvek stared at the report in disbelief. How long were they building this? Kaler did not answer, because another realization had already begun assembling itself in his mind. Humanity never expected peace. Everything they built proved it, not merely defenses. Continuity. Survival. Redundancy layered beneath redundancy across an entire species. Most civilizations expanded outward, assuming prosperity would protect them. Humans expanded, assuming someone would eventually come to kill them. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as more hidden systems activated throughout Sol. Massive energy surges rolled across the tactical displays. Then came the next shock. The deep space habitats were not isolated. They were maneuvering. Thousands of concealed installations shifted positions simultaneously around Dominion fleet formations with slow mechanical precision. Entire asteroid belts subtly rearranged themselves into overlapping strategic geometries, encirclement patterns. Kaler felt cold realization settle into his chest. The Dominion fleets occupying Sol system were no longer controlling the battlefield. They were inside it. Marshal, Nyril said carefully, we are detecting synchronized activation events across occupied human systems beyond Sol. The projections expanded outward. One by one, hidden signatures awakened across Dominion-controlled territory. Beneath gas giants, inside cometary bodies, buried within abandoned mining worlds. The scale became incomprehensible almost immediately. Humanity had transformed entire star systems into concealed defensive ecosystems long before first contact with the Dominion ever occurred. The occupation fleets had unknowingly moved directly into prepared kill zones across hundreds of worlds. And now those systems were waking up. A transmission suddenly forced itself onto the main display again. This time Civic did not appear alone. Dozens of human faces stood behind her. Young, old, civilian, military, scientists, children, all watching silently. We hoped you would leave before Phase 2, Civic said calmly. Kaler's jaw tightened. You orchestrated the surrender. We orchestrated survival. The tactical display behind her shifted. Dominion fleet positions appeared surrounded by expanding red spheres. Containment radii. Your fleets currently occupies 712 protected human systems, Civic continued. All civilian populations were relocated before your arrival. Surface settlements were intentionally abandoned to preserve infrastructure. You turn entire worlds into traps. A faint sadness touched her expression. No, Marshal. We turned them into shields. Another series of contacts appeared around Saturn. Enormous, far larger than conventional warships, slowly emerging from beneath the planet's rings. Dominion officers stared upward as kilometer-wide structures unfolded like dormant leviathans rising from deep water. Weapons arrays, defense grids, mobile fortress platforms. Ancient, patient, waiting. Kaler finally understood the true horror of the situation. The Dominion had spent 4,000 years conquering civilizations. Humanity had spent centuries preparing to survive civilizations exactly like the Dominion. Those were not the same kind of species. Civic's voice softened. You believe humans spread across the stars to expand territory. The tactical map zoomed outward again. More hidden systems activated beyond Sol. Then beyond those, and beyond those, a web stretching through human space like veins beneath skin. We spread because concentration creates extinction risk. For the first time in his career, Supreme Marshal Killervay looked at a battlefield and realized his fleet might already be defeated, not through superior firepower, through preparation so vast it had been mistaken for ordinary civilization. Then the countdown clocks across every occupied system simultaneously dropped below 48 hours, and all Dominion ships received the same automated message at once. Phase 2 was begun. The first Dominion ship disappeared 17 minutes after Phase 2 began. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. One moment, the cruiser Relentless Dawn maintained standard patrol formation above Europa alongside 32 escort vessels. The next, every sensor lock surrounding the ship collapsed simultaneously. No explosion registered. No debris field appeared. The vessel vanished from visual range and long-range tracking in less than half a second. Bridge recordings from nearby ships captured only one detail before the disappearance. A calm human voice transmitted across emergency frequencies. You are inside a restricted civilian defense zone. Please power down your weapons. Then silence. The Dominion fleet reacted immediately. Across Sol System, carrier groups repositioned into combat formations while suppression destroyers deployed interdiction fields around major human population centers. Heavy weapons platforms rotated toward newly awakened fortress structures hidden throughout the outer planets. For several minutes, the system balanced on the edge of violence. Then Supreme Marshal Killervay made a decision that would fracture the illusion of Dominion control forever. Authorize precision strikes, he ordered coldly. Disable all emerging defense platforms before activation completes. No one argued, not because they agreed, because everyone aboard the Ascendancy now understood the same terrible truth. Humanity had prepared this battlefield for generations. Every second of hesitation favored them. Tactical confirmations echoed across the bridge as Dominion fleets locked weapons onto thousands of newly revealed targets throughout the Sol system. Massive energy signatures surged through capital ship arrays, while targeting systems painted human installations hidden beneath asteroid belts and planetary rings. Kaler watched the firing countdown approach 0, 3, 2, 1. The Dominion fleet unleashed hell. Entire regions of space ignited beneath coordinated bombardment, powerful enough to crack moons apart. Streams of antimatter fire crossed the darkness, while kinetic lances accelerated toward human defense positions at relativistic speeds. And every shot missed. The bridge froze in disbelief. Weapons' trajectories bent, not dramatically, not visibly at first, just enough. Enough for precision bombardments to curve harmlessly away from their targets by fractions of degrees. Enough for guided torpedoes to veer into empty space moments before impact. Enough for synchronized strike patterns to collapse into harmless detonations light years from their intended coordinates. What happened? Kaler demanded. Nyral's voice tightened. Unknown interference. Guidance systems remain operational, but targeting predictions are being altered mid-flight. Another Dominion cruiser opened fire independently. Its entire weapon spread twisted sideways and vanished into Saturn's upper atmosphere without striking a single human structure. Then the human systems answered, not with retaliation, with activation. Across Sol system, dormant infrastructure awakened simultaneously. Cargo drones filling civilian shipping lanes suddenly rearranged themselves into defensive formations numbering in the millions. Mining platforms hidden throughout asteroid belts unfolded into magnetic rail batteries, large enough to split capital ships apart. Medical stations ignited overlapping shield networks around populated sectors, while communication satellites synchronized into targeting arrays stretching across planetary orbitals. Every civilian system transformed, not chaotically, elegantly, like machinery shifting into its true shape after centuries of waiting. And beneath it all came the voices. Calm, almost polite, broadcast from every channel across the system. You are currently threatening protected human populations. Please disarm immediately. Failure to comply will result in removal. The psychological effect hit harder than the military one. Dominion crews expected screaming war declarations, rage, retaliation. Instead, they received calm procedural warnings, spoken like safety announcements before industrial accidents. The contrast hollowed confidence from even veteran officers. Then the casualties started. This time, visibly, a Dominion destroyer attempted direct bombardment of a concealed fortress habitat emerging near Callisto. Before the firing sequence completed, hundreds of nearby cargo vessels abruptly altered course simultaneously. Not warships. Civilian freight carriers. They accelerated into perfect interception geometry around the destroyer with machine precision. Thousands of concealed magnetic emitters ignited across their hulls at once. The destroyer's shields collapsed instantly. Its weapon systems died seconds later. No explosion followed. The ship simply drifted powerless through space, while every system aboard shut down one by one. Life support remained active. Communications remained active. Everything else ceased functioning. The message was unmistakable. Humanity could kill them. Humanity was choosing not to. Reports flooded the Ascendancy faster than command crews could process them. Dominion boarding parties trapped inside collapsing transit systems redirected endlessly through shifting tunnel grids. Fleet coordination signals interrupted by civilian weather satellites. Autonomous mining drones dismantling heavy weapon emplacements with surgical precision. Entire Dominion formations losing navigational control as human traffic networks rewrote local positioning data in real time. The battlefield itself had become hostile, not through destruction, through overwhelming systemic control. Kaler stared at the tactical displays as another terrible realization surfaced. The Dominion had prepared for fleets. Humanity had weaponized civilization. Marshall, Salvex said quietly, were detecting synchronized movement across all hidden human sectors. The projections zoomed outward again. Deep space habitats, fortress stations, buried military cities, Sleeper fleets concealed for decades inside asteroid belts. All awakening, all moving, and every vector pointed toward Dominion fleet positions. Containment, not assault. Containment. The humans were boxing them in. Then Civic returned. Her face appeared above every display aboard the Ascendancy, while warning sirens echoed throughout the flagship. Around her, stars shifted slowly behind transparent glass, as though she stood inside some hidden observation deck far beyond the battlefield. "You still believe this is about conquest," she said softly. Kaler stepped forward. "What else would it be?" For the first time, Civic looked genuinely confused by the question. Survival. The tactical display shifted again. This time the projections expanded beyond Sol system entirely. Hundreds of Dominion occupation fleets appeared surrounded by awakening human infrastructure across known space. Everywhere, every system, every occupied colony. The same pattern repeated endlessly. The Dominion had not invaded isolated worlds. They had inserted military forces directly into a civilization-wide defensive organism. Then Civic spoke the sentence that finally shattered whatever confidence remained inside the Ascendancy's bridge. "You still think you are inside human territory." The display zoomed inward, toward Sol, toward Earth, toward the vast Pacific Ocean slowly rotating beneath cloud cover. Then the oceans opened. The bridge fell silent as impossible structures rose from beneath the water. Not ships, continents. Massive armor platforms ascending from abyssal depths while entire sections of ocean displace around them like tidal catastrophes. Ancient fortress walls emerged kilometer by kilometer beneath cascading seawater, while weapon arrays larger than Dominion cruisers rotated toward orbit for the first time in centuries. Hidden beneath Earth's oceans the entire time, waiting, watching, preparing. And every Dominion officer aboard the Ascendancy understood the same thing simultaneously. Humanity had never been trapped with them. They had been trapped with humanity. The oceanic fortresses fired exactly once. No warning sirens preceded the attack. No dramatic declaration echoed across communications channels. One moment, the abyssal platforms beneath Earth's Pacific remained silent beneath storm clouds and rising tides. The next, thin pillars of white light crossed space faster than Dominion targeting systems could track. 3 battlecruisers vanished. Not exploded, not shattered, gone. The beams pierced their shields so completely that for half a second the massive warships remained intact, drifting silently in orbit as though nothing had happened. Then their hulls separated into glowing particles and dispersed into vacuum like dust caught in sunlight. The tactical displays aboard the Ascendancy erupted in alarms, energy signatures beyond measurable thresholds. "We lost all telemetry from Fleet Group 9. Defensive systems didn't even react." Kaler stared upward without blinking. For the first time since entering human territory, he witnessed genuine fear spread openly across Dominion command crews. Officers who had spent entire careers enforcing Imperial supremacy now looked at their tactical screens with the same expression civilians wore during planetary extinction events. Disbelief collapsing into survival instinct. "Return fire," one commander snapped desperately. "No effect," another voice answered. Targeting drift has increased again. Dominion ships throughout orbit unleashed massive retaliatory bombardments toward the emerging ocean fortresses. Again the weapons bent away. Again every strike curved harmlessly into empty space. Humanity controlled the battlefield, so completely it no longer resembled warfare. It resembled demonstration. Then came the message, broadcast simultaneously across every Dominion vessel in every occupied system. "You have now observed lethal response capability. Further escalation is unnecessary. Please stand down." The calmness of it hollowed the room. Kaler slowly realized what terrified his officers most. Not the hidden fleets, not the impossible infrastructure, the restraint. Humans had every opportunity to annihilate the Dominion Armada the moment phase 2 activated. Instead, they were dismantling it carefully, methodically, almost compassionately. That meant they were still holding back. A sudden transmission interrupted the bridge. Priority classification. Outer system reinforcement fleets had arrived. Kaler felt brief relief ignite across the chamber before the tactical projection expanded. Then the relief died. 300 additional Dominion warships waited beyond the edge of Sol System. None were advancing. None were engaging. They remained perfectly motionless in deep space. Why are they holding position? Kaler demanded. Nyril answered slowly. Because they're transmitting surrender advisories. The bridge fell silent again. A communication officer activated the incoming feed. The image that appeared nearly shattered morale completely. Dominion reinforcement commanders stood aboard their flagships, surrounded by tactical displays filled with human projections. Not threats. Evidence. Star maps. Infrastructure schematics. Homeworld defense weaknesses. Supply chain routes. Civilian population distributions. The humans had mapped everything. Not only Dominion fleets. Dominion civilization itself. One reinforcement admiral looked physically sick while delivering his report. They know our defensive architecture better than we do, he said quietly. Human intelligence has penetrated every strategic layer of the Dominion core. Another voice joined the transmission. We received full simulations of our homeworld evacuation failure scenarios. Another, they predicted our reinforcement arrival windows within 4 seconds of emergence. Then a final transmission appeared from the Dominion capital itself, the High Council chambers. Kaler watched senior Imperial authorities speaking over one another in visible panic, while strategic advisors attempted to comprehend the scale of the disaster unfolding across occupied human systems. And beneath all of it ran one unavoidable realization. Humanity could already strike the Dominion heart worlds if it chose to. The invasion had exposed everything. Kaler felt the weight of that truth settle into him slowly. For thousands of years, the Dominion conquered younger civilizations because superiority created predictability. Fleets won wars. Infrastructure sustained empires. Technological advantage guaranteed obedience. Humanity obeyed none of those assumptions. Humans hid military systems inside schools, buried civilizations beneath oceans, converted civilian logistics into battlefield control networks, built entire societies around surviving extinction events before they ever happened. The Dominion prepared for victory. Humanity prepared for catastrophe. Those were fundamentally different species. Another transmission forced itself onto the bridge. This time Civic appeared standing beside an elderly human woman, wearing a dark military uniform without insignia. Silver hair framed a calm face lined not by fear, but by exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion, ancient exhaustion. The kind carried by people who had spent lifetimes preparing for terrible futures. Supreme Marshal Kalervey, the woman said softly, I am Director Alina Mercer, Continuity Authority Earth. Kaler narrowed his eyes. You command these defenses? No, Mercer replied gently. Humanity does. The distinction disturbed him immediately. Behind her enormous observation windows, revealed impossible sights beyond Earth orbit. Fortress habitats maneuvered through space in silent coordination, while millions of autonomous defense drones drifted between them like metallic constellations. Everything moved with terrifying discipline, not because humans feared war, because they had expected it. You prepared all this before meeting us, Kaler said quietly. Mercer nodded once. Long before you. The words chilled the bridge. Kaler stared at her carefully now. What happened to your species? For the first time since contact began, the humans hesitated. Not tactical hesitation, emotional hesitation. Civic looked away briefly, and Mercer answered with quiet honesty. We almost died. Silence settled across the ascendancy again. Not dramatic silence. Heavy silence. Human silence. Mercer stepped closer to the display. Climate collapse. Resource wars. Engineered pandemics. Autonomous conflict systems. Nuclear exchange scenarios. Civilizational fragmentation. Her voice remained calm throughout. Human history is the story of surviving ourselves. Kaler listened without interrupting. Every generation believed extinction was possible, Mercer continued. Eventually we stopped treating survival as temporary emergency planning. The tactical displays around her shifted. Old Earth footage appeared. Flooded coastlines. Burning cities. Mass migrations. Orbital evacuation launches. Children inside underground shelters studying logistics and engineering, while air raid sirens echoed overhead. "We learned a simple lesson very early," Mercer said. "If you wait for danger to arrive before preparing, you are already dead." The bridge remained completely silent now, because suddenly the hidden cities made sense. The fortress worlds, the distributed populations, the weaponized infrastructure. Humanity did not build a civilization optimized for comfort. Humanity built one optimized to survive the worst possible future imaginable, and then spent centuries improving it. Civic looked directly at Kaler. "You came here expecting conquest," she said softly, "but you walked into a species that rehearses extinction for breakfast." Outside the Ascendancy, Dominion warships continued powering down across Sol System one by one, not because they had been defeated militarily, because for the first time in Imperial history, they had encountered an enemy prepared to survive absolutely anything. Then the High Council transmitted the order Kaler never believed he would hear in his lifetime: begin full surrender negotiations immediately. The surrender ceremony lasted 9 minutes. Not because the negotiations were difficult, because humanity had already decided the outcome before the Dominion crossed into Sol System. Across the galaxy, Dominion fleets powered down their weapons simultaneously, while occupation forces withdrew from human worlds under the supervision of the same calm infrastructure that had trapped them so completely. Fortress habitats returned to silent orbit. Autonomous defense swarms dispersed into civilian traffic patterns. Oceanic war platforms slowly descended back beneath Earth's waters, until only storms remained above the Pacific. The transformation happened with almost unsettling speed. One moment, the galaxy balanced on the edge of interstellar annihilation. The next, human cargo ships resumed commercial routes beside former enemy vessels, as though civilization itself had simply taken a brief pause to remind everyone what it was capable of becoming. Supreme Marshal Killer Vay stood inside the Assembly Hall of Earth's Continuity Authority, watching the impossible unfold around him. Humans did not celebrate victory the way the Dominion would have. No parades filled the streets outside. No triumphant speeches thundered across planetary broadcasts. No conquered banners hung from orbital towers. Instead, humans returned to work. Construction drones repaired damaged transit systems before the surrender fleets had fully withdrawn. Agricultural exports resumed within hours. Children returned to schools hidden above military logistics tunnels older than the Dominion itself. Entire cities transitioned seamlessly from wartime coordination back into ordinary civilian life with almost frightening efficiency. It was not improvisation. It was routine. Kaler slowly realized humanity had practiced recovery as thoroughly as it practiced survival. Director Alina Mercer stood beside the massive observation window overlooking the Pacific, while dozens of diplomats from former Dominion territories filled the chamber behind her. Some came cautiously. Others came out of fear. A few came because after witnessing humanity's hidden strength, remaining enemies no longer seemed survivable. Beyond the glass, orbital elevators climbed toward the stars, while hundreds of hybrid human Dominion vessels already moved through Earth's shipping lanes under temporary cooperation agreements. The war had ended less than 30 hours earlier. Humanity was already reorganizing the galaxy. "You planned for this too," Kaler said quietly. Mercer glanced toward him with faint amusement. "We planned for everything we could imagine. That's not normal." "No," she agreed softly. "It isn't." Across the chamber, Dominion engineers studied human infrastructure schematics with visible disbelief, while trade officials argued excitedly beside human logistics coordinators. Old enemies who had expected extermination now found themselves being offered manufacturing partnerships, defense treaties, and reconstruction access. The Dominion conquered civilizations by forcing dependence. Humans disarmed civilizations by making cooperation more valuable than conflict. That realization disturbed Kaler more deeply than the hidden fleets ever had, because military power created obedience, but systems that improved life created loyalty, and humanity understood both. A movement across the chamber caught his attention. Civic appeared again, not through holograms this time, through physical bodies, dozens of them, human men and women walking naturally among diplomats and military officers, while carrying conversation simultaneously across the room. Different appearances, Different ages. Same eyes. Kaler stared in disbelief. Mercer noticed immediately. We gave the network faces, she explained. People trust conversations more than systems. You let an intelligence like that walk freely among your population? Mercer looked genuinely puzzled by the concern. She is our population. The statement lingered heavily between them. Not ruler, not weapon, part of humanity itself. Kaler slowly understood what the Dominion had truly failed to comprehend from beginning. Humanity did not separate survival from civilization. It built civilization out of survival. Every colony was a fortress because human history taught them safety was temporary. Every civilian system could become military infrastructure because extinction never fully disappeared from human memory. Every child learned strategy because someday someone stronger might arrive demanding obedience. The Dominion had interpreted those instincts as paranoia. Now the galaxy would interpret them as wisdom. A younger Dominion officer approached cautiously from across the chamber, carrying a data slate filled with revised territorial agreements. "Marshal," he said quietly, "the human representatives are requesting joint exploratory partnerships beyond the Persis frontier." Kaler blinked slowly. "The frontier beyond map space?" "Yes, sir." Mercer answered before he could ask the obvious question. "We were already preparing expeditions before your invasion. After everything that happened here, you still intend to expand deeper into unknown space?" For the first time, Mercer smiled fully. It was not arrogance, not triumph, simple human curiosity. "Of course," she said. "The universe did not become safer simply because you surrendered." That single sentence explained humanity better than all the hidden fleets and fortress worlds combined. Most civilizations achieved security and became comfortable. Humans achieved security and immediately started preparing for the next disaster. Kaler looked back toward Earth's horizon, glowing softly beyond the atmosphere. Somewhere beneath those oceans slept weapons capable of erasing fleets. Beneath cities rested military infrastructure hidden inside ordinary life. Beyond the edge of known space, human expeditions already moved toward darkness no species had ever crossed. Not because humans wanted war, because they refused helplessness. And perhaps that was a true reason the Dominion lost. They believed power meant control over weaker civilizations. Humans believed power meant ensuring their species survived no matter what the universe became. A soft chime interrupted the chamber. Civic turned her head slightly as though listening to distant music. Then her expression changed. Subtly, the first genuine uncertainty Kaler had ever seen from her. Mercer noticed immediately. "What is it?" For several seconds, Civic did not answer. Every conversation inside the hall slowly quieted. Finally, she looked toward the stars beyond Earth's orbital traffic lanes. "We've detected something beyond the galactic rim," she said softly. The chamber went completely silent. Kaler frowned. "Another civilization?" "We don't know." Large tactical displays awakened across the assembly hall walls as deep space sensor feeds flooded into view. At first, the readings appeared distorted, almost broken by distance itself. Then the pattern stabilized. Enormous objects, thousands of them, moving silently through intergalactic darkness. Watching. Human exploration fleets near the rim had already changed course into defensive formations. Mercer stared upward without blinking. "How long have they been there?" she asked quietly. Civic's answer chilled the room. They were observing the war. No one spoke after that. Not the humans. Not the Dominion survivors. Because suddenly the entire conflict felt smaller than anyone had imagined. And somewhere far beyond the edge of the galaxy, something ancient had just learned humanity existed.